But if it's from the other political party, they drag them through the courts. But when the accused is a big man from within their own tent, then the rules change. And so we must ask, what moral standing does this government now have to go after others? If Operation Recover All Loot becomes Operation Recover Some of the Loot, then the whole fight against corruption has been reduced to partisan theater. And so we demand that the Attorney General looks at this decision again and reinstitute the charges against Kwabena Dufo and others. Let the court play out and let them decide whether they are guilty or not.
For the past 30 years, it's become clear that both parties have had a chance to govern. I am a moderate politician. I believe that the excesses where the hardliners take the center and you take the pace when a government comes into office must be a thing of the past. I must admit that some of these excesses are happening in my time, in our time, our 8 years in office. Some did happen. But we cannot continue with a vicious cycle of you do me, I do you. There are key governance issues that I believe as a democracy we can focus on to improve on the lives of our people. For instance, on the issue of justice, human rights, I mean, just yesterday I saw one of my regional chairpersons on just an act of misdemeanor, and he had been handcuffed and being pushed into Black Maria. These are things that I feel we don't need. It's a blot on our democracy. We don't need it. The excesses of institutions where government has to take responsibility for can be improved upon. And of course, we in the minority are not satisfied or happy with how the Chief Justice was recently removed. You know, we see it as more of politics than really ensuring that there's some accountability. Of course, once we've been in office for 8 years, we expect that the new government coming in with its reset policy may want to investigate, and all is part of the politics, the democratic accountability. They must. But we also expect that the law will be applied in a humane way. So, for instance, if you are investigating someone, you ask the person to report, and he reports. You don't just handcuff the person when he has voluntarily come to you for investigation, and then you say, I have put a bail bond of, say, 50,000 on you, look for property before I release you. These are some of the challenges that we believe we can improve upon.
The comment made by my opponent, Achim Sakawa people, I've not heard any public figure in this country, independent, yourselves or anybody, comment on it. It's completely unacceptable. If I was to get up to make a comment about Northerners or Gonchas, you can imagine the uproar that would be in the country. Presidential candidate, a former president of Ghana, you can call a group of Ghanaians Sakawa people, and it involves the group for which the sitting president comes, and that comment goes without, that statement goes without comment. And at the same time, we hear these statements. Let's all try and bring the politics of insults to an end, etc., etc. Occasions are given where specific comments can be made. Nothing happens. And then it's lost. It's lost in the generalities. I get the impression that because of the unfortunate, in some ways, authoritarian origins of our state in its where it was considered dangerous to criticize government, the pendulum has now swung the other way, where government is the only group you can criticize. If you criticize government, no matter what you say, is legitimate. If government was to respond, that's somehow illegitimate. Media freedom is interpreted as meaning the freedom to criticize others, but you can't criticize the press. If, for instance, they step out of bounds or they conduct themselves in an irresponsible manner. So all of this, I'm trying to say that it's a package that we all have to look at dispassionately.
Oko online is a pico phone. Me chiro me prove. You see, I've got 50,000 hectares. No, you segregate a chile, baby, a best article area free from Western region. Ediaba. You all can say targeted. There's no way say. Yeah, targeted say yeah over even say 200,000, right? 150,000. Now you disika. Akoya na mobile motor ya den. See, commonsensically. Yeah. Mobile. No, commonsensically. Waba uso bia disika. As at this time. Mon said then timimbo bia kwa doesn't make sense.
Me pacho Jerome.
Me bisa kuani na otifie message.
It will make sense.
Me bisa say
Jerome.
Se wo kuani no to na na wo tie sa anadoma na asem we. Sa kokko nanse story. Wo bu afa so the 128 cities aba. Yeah, beka was so be rehabilitating no. You can go online. Farmers commended Akufo-Addo across the country for rehabilitating their farms.
Both figures be somebody.
Oh no, insubstantiated. Me say no prayer. So substantiated.
Me pacho. Onye no prayer. Mo say na mo dey.
And I have said it here. Me say 120 million. Yeah, the yes, dollars. Yeah, the rehabilitating 50,000 hectares. Yeah, fa emabunu me church omo ha. Yeah, fa emabunu omo ye pruning. Yefa emabu no mudua kwa de makuafo no yesanso tibi kwa kotobo yefa sackers plantain sackers aye de brakuafo ema mudua yesere be manya bibia di kopim se kokon be den ebeba ye de binsu ever pollinators. I told you here so all of it no ebe ye rehabilitation but on what you okay he is speaking to no document. I have told you some mobile munya mu ba kokra munya pruners Monfa pollinators, mon rehabilitation one. Nama koji sika, abokuani ni krono 128. Wobetina so be diska 7 months down the line. Uti ha scientia, chim catch them say, me am betina me kwama kuani no. I am not making sense. Don't you think you are insulting them? Because kuani no just had 3,200 na. Or the quantuma, on him send a light bill, yatum. On his son water bill, yatum. On him say, Sabia Buno, Ntadia was yatum. On him say, roofing sheets, yatum. Kuanini, and at water, and none was a word dressing. But what about now, pompously? What about national television? I catch it, Kuanini said, was Sabi, won't him oye. O Munda must say, now, man, never soon because who tell ye? What you cost so for the 93 more than a Kuanini, but at the same time, no, free as it is. What the only mubia? No one discount to Sabbath.
When Kwesi Pratt called me, inviting me to this forum, I didn't know that the gathering will be so august, almost intimidating. Alhaji Hudu Yaya, Sylvanus Tamaklo, Leo Kran, people who have been members of parliament, who have sung the slogans, and people who we read about in school. But I'll do my best to discharge the duty according to the research that is available to me, which I'll share with all of you. At the outset, though, I have to set out political philosophy. And Comrade Chicho Poku, when he was calling both of us comrades, looked at me with a smile, wondering whether I am a comrade. I don't know whether I'm qualified to do that, but I set out as a socialist, as I believed in the beginning as an undergraduate student. My first encounter with order and life would be with the Catholic Church, and I was being groomed as a mass boy. So in Burma camp where I grew up, I followed Father Kumesi, Lieutenant Colonel Kumesi then he was, as one of his favorite mass boys. And the key expressions of the Catholic Church is with the communion service. And in the communion service, you will identify the equality of men, the way in which the Catholic Church perceives it. The Father discharges the communion to all men in the same manner. And so equality of men and that kind of socialism sort of influenced me at the beginning. Of course, born in the mid-70s to a young army officer, I was around about 5 to 6 years old when the 31st December coup occurred. And in those days, I lived in Burma camp, a place called St. Anthony Lane. And it was very close to the command headquarters and very close to the house of the brigade commander then. His name was Colonel Labana. And so the leaders of the coups struck excitement in a lot of the army officers, the younger army officers, the lieutenants and the captains at that time. I was later to learn that that excitement that the coup struck in the army officers was because a lot of them were concerned about the attitude of Mr. Riley Poku, who was the Minister of Defense at the time, and it was thought that he did not treat the army officers well. So later on I understood it. But by this time my father was a captain, and so the names of Aloga Akatapori, Zarayebo, Yen Yen were names that I heard regularly. I associated with them even though I didn't know them, and it struck a certain positive impact of something that I didn't quite understand. Later on though, I was to find out that these heroes of the revolution became renegades of the PNDC, as it was told that the PNDC did a U-turn in its own political philosophy sometime around 1983. Then, as an undergraduate, I was part of those who chanted the slogans of Che Guevara, of Chris Hani. We sang Inkonto Wesizwe. We used to sing Cho Cholozo as if that will bring Mandela out of prison, but it didn't. We were also buoyed by the maltreatment that the United States meted out, especially to Fidel Castro and Cuba. We were also buoyed in this position when we read about the civil rights movement, about Martin Luther King, about the blessed Elijah Muhammad, who actually begat Malcolm X, and who then recruited Cassius Clay to become a key part of the whole civil rights movement. Cassius, of course, became Ali and ended up as one of the celebrated sportsmen of all time. So being socialist was great. It was the in thing to be. It was fighting university authorities and singing the slogans. That was what it was at the time. But then, as I proceeded along, I read about freedoms and the inalienable rights of men, that these were guaranteed by God. I noticed that our first Republican Constitution did not have a clear human rights guaranteed charter. I read some of the cases in law school, and I realized that arguments had been made in Ghana in the courts that were successfully made against what I thought was the inalienable rights of men. Then I became born again, so I sort of read also the Bible, and I began to accept that the central theme of man is God. I subscribe to the tenets of the God of Abraham, who revealed himself as Elohim in Christ. And it seemed to me that center-right political philosophy to discharge the obligations that God had placed upon man in the Garden of Eden became a spontaneous order. I understood capitalism to mean individual initiative to be developed under freedom and the right for individuals to reap their labor, and that the consumer is the most important person in the whole equation. So I also read in those days the epistles of Dr. J.B. Dankwa. I was influenced by Margaret Thatcher and the kinds of things she did. I noticed that when England changed to Tony Blair, he pursued almost the same center-rightist policies of Margaret Thatcher, and he described it as New Labour. It occurred to me then that perhaps being center-right maybe is the way to go. And then I became quite disappointed with what happened in Angola, because the battle between the MPLA and UNITA was one of the central themes of conversation, and it was one of the central themes that divided the center-right people and the center-left people. Eventually the MPLA won the war, but the post-war Angola was more capitalist than anyone could think. In fact, today Angola and Luanda is the most expensive country to live in. Eduardo dos Santos' daughter is the richest African woman. And so these things sort of strengthened my resolve that perhaps this whole left-wing thing that we had done through the university and the Che Guevara and all of that, just perhaps required a bit more research for us to draw a conclusion. You look at the situation in South Africa today, the people whose slogans we used to chant, Cyril Ramaphosa, Tokyo Sexuale, Jacob Zuma, look at the way in which they conduct affairs. It's very, very far from the letter of socialism. And these matters sort of strengthen the resolve that perhaps we have to have another look at this philosophy that we are acquainted with. Not that Cyril is doing anything wrong, but in terms of the letter of socialism that was preached widely in those days, and if you look at what has happening now, it may well be that they had also changed the philosophy, as indeed did the PNDC in 1983, which set out also as a socialist group. Then I looked at President Kufuor when he took office in 2001, and since the time of Kwame Nkrumah, the record will indicate that no other president has achieved such important social interventions as President Kufuor, who should normally be a center-right person, did. And sort of all of that influenced me. So I'm just saying this at the outset so that the distinguished audience will know where I have come from and where I have struggled towards, so that that will definitely influence the kinds of things I said. And I had said that I read the Epistles of Dankwa and I read it thoroughly. And I have also read Dr. Nkrumah, who's very distinguished, but perhaps that informs the kinds of things that I'll be saying. When Kwesi Pratt called me, inviting me to this forum, I didn't know that the gathering will be so august, almost intimidating. Alhaji Hudu Yaya, Sylvanus Tamaklo, Leo Kran, people who have been members of parliament, who have sung the slogans, and people who we read about in school. But I'll do my best to discharge the duty according to the research that is available to me, which I'll share with all of you. At the outset, though, I have to set out political philosophy. And Comrade Chicho Poku, when he was calling both of us comrades, looked at me with a smile, wondering whether I am a comrade. I don't know whether I'm qualified to do that. But I set out as a socialist, as I believed in the beginning as an undergraduate student. My first encounter with order and life would be with the Catholic Church, and I was being groomed as a mass boy. So in Burma camp where I grew up, I followed Father Kumesi, Lieutenant Colonel Kumesi then he was, as one of his favorite mass boys. And the key expressions of the Catholic Church is with the communion service. And in the communion service, you will identify the equality of men, the way in which the Catholic Church perceives it. The Father discharges the communion to all men in the same manner. And so equality of men and that kind of socialism sort of influenced me at the beginning. Of course, born in the mid-70s to a young army officer, I was around about 5 to 6 years old when the 31st December coup occurred. And in those days, I lived in Burma camp, a place called St. Anthony Lane. And it was very close to the command headquarters and very close to the house of the brigade commander then. His name was Colonel Labana. And so the leaders of the coups struck excitement in a lot of the army officers, the younger army officers, the lieutenants and the captains at that time. I was later to learn that that excitement that the coup struck in the army officers was because a lot of them were concerned about the attitude of Mr. Riley Poku, who was the Minister of Defense at the time, and it was thought that he did not treat the army officers well. So later on I understood it. But by this time my father was a captain, and so the names of Aloga Akatapori, Zarayebo, Yen Yen, were names that I heard regularly. I associated with them even though I didn't know them, and it struck a certain positive impact of something that I didn't quite understand. Later on, though, I was to find out that these heroes of the revolution became renegades of the PNDC, as it was told that the PNDC did a U-turn in its own political philosophy sometime around 1983. Then, as an undergraduate, I was part of those who chanted the slogans of Che Guevara, of Chris Hani. We sang Inkonto Wesizwe. We used to sing Cho Cholozo as if that would bring Mandela out of prison, but it didn't. We were also buoyed by the maltreatment that the United States meted out, especially to Fidel Castro and Cuba. We were also buoyed in this position when we read about the civil rights movement, about Martin Luther King, about the blessed Elijah Muhammad, who actually begat Malcolm X, and who then recruited Cassius Clay to become a key part of the whole civil rights movement. Cassius, of course, became Ali and ended up as one of the celebrated sportsmen of all time. So being socialist was great. It was the in thing to be. It was fighting university authorities and singing the slogans. That was what it was at the time. But then, as I began to accept that the central theme of man is God, I subscribe to the tenets of the God of Abraham, who revealed himself as Elohim in Christ. And it seemed to me that center-right political philosophy to discharge the obligations that God had placed upon man in the Garden of Eden became a spontaneous order. I understood capitalism to mean individual initiative to be developed under freedom and the right for individuals to reap their labor, and that the consumer is the most important person in the whole equation. So I also read in those days the epistles of Dr. J.B. Dankwa. I was influenced by Margaret Thatcher and the kinds of things she did. I noticed that when England changed to Tony Blair, he pursued almost the same center-rightist policies of Margaret Thatcher, and he described it as New Labour. It occurred to me then that perhaps being center-right maybe is the way to go. And then I became quite disappointed with what happened in Angola, because the battle between the MPLA and UNITA was one of the central themes of conversation, and it was one of the central themes that divided the center-right people and the center-left people. Eventually, the MPLA won the war, but the post-war Angola was more capitalist than anyone could think. In fact, today, Angola and Luanda is the most expensive country to live in. Eduardo dos Santos' daughter is the richest African woman. And so these things sort of strengthened my resolve that perhaps this whole left-wing thing that we had done through the university and the Che Guevara and all of that, just perhaps we required a bit more research for us to draw a conclusion. You look at the situation in South Africa today, the people whose slogans we used to chant, Cyril Ramaphosa, Tokyo Sexuale, Jacob Zuma, look at the way in which they conduct affairs. It's very, very far from the letter of socialism. And these matters sort of strengthen the resolve that perhaps we have to have another look at this philosophy that we are acquainted with. Not that Cyril is doing anything wrong, but in terms of the letter of socialism that was preached widely in those days, and if you look at what has happening now, it may well be that they had also changed the philosophy, as indeed did the PNDC in 1983, which set out also as a socialist group. Then I looked at President Kufuor when he took office in 2001, and since the time of Kwame Nkrumah, the record will indicate that no other president has achieved such important social interventions as President Kufuor, who should normally be a center-right person, did. And sort of all of that influenced me. So I'm just saying this at the outset so that the distinguished audience will know where I have come from and where I have struggled towards, so that that will definitely influence the kinds of things I said. And I had said that I read the epistles of Dankwa and I read it thoroughly. And I have also read Dr. Nkrumah, who's very distinguished, but perhaps that informs the kinds of things that are.
Almost here.
Wait a minute. This one too, your friend Kwame.
Wait, Kwame. As in the same Kwame again?
Yes, mommy.
I'm
the second coming.
Into all this tension just to reintroduce that broke boy from Kaswa.
Why would you deceive the family like this again?
Now I understand the whole delay. Troll from Kaswa, dear. Why wouldn't he be late? Or be late, of course.
Star 712 hash, star 712 hash. Yeah, you go be the luckiest. Copy from Georgia be luckiest. From not the cause she be luckiest. Me and you go be luckiest. No matter why you're luckiest. Everybody go be that luckiest.
the apple boom. If you put it toy, so would the coming of the Son of Man be. Is that his car?
Dial star 712 hash. Choose your ticket. Enter your lucky number. Follow the prompts and let destiny handle the rest.
This promotion is regulated by the NLA on the Caritas platform.
Are you a headmaster, headmistress, parent, teacher, or an educator looking for high-quality textbooks for preschool, primary, and junior high school students? Look no further than Advocate Publishing Company. Advocate Publishing Company is a leading publisher of educational materials in Ghana that publishes very engaging, interactive, and comprehensive textbooks that meet the needs of students, teachers, and parents. Our textbooks are thoroughly published to make learning fun and easy. They are also designed to stimulate critical thinking, problem solving, and creativity in students. Make Advocate Publishing your preferred choice for all your educational needs. Explore our range of textbooks and educational resources. Visit us at the old GNTC yard near Kingsway, Accra. You can contact us on 0503 786 776 or 02408 06354, also 0531 600360, and connect with us on Instagram, X, and Facebook at Advo Publishing. Don't settle for less. Choose the best. Advocate Publishing Company, empowering young minds one textbook at a time. Thinking publishing, think Advocate Publishing.
Hello, my friends. My name is Calcate Toothpaste.
Wow.
I was made to be gentle on your gum, but protected. I will protect your teeth from cavity, make your teeth whiter, stronger, keep your mouth fresh all day. And best of all, I'm strawberry flavored. So put on a smile and try me.
That's amazing.
Just try me. That's my job.
If you say so, jump on my brush. Makes your teeth stronger, chicky whiter, chicky stronger. Yay! You did it!
I'm glad you like your new toothpaste. Don't forget to brush both day and night.
Calcates. Happy smile.
Yes, next. Hey, Nadia Benson, Asamo.
Me didn't tontum. Mr. Frammy Calico, just call me cockroach.
Now, Mr. Frammy once now.
Hey, that's you. Improve car. Yeah, dear. Captain Mosquito, double the accent. Me did it, Sasso spray. Mr. Frammy Sasso quell. Yeah, go to my Sasso.
Come tom preko.
In life, choice is good, but choice plus safety is way better. Your safety and comfort is paramount. Under the cylinder recirculation model, you can buy LPG in a safe environment. All cylinders are inspected and maintained to the best safety standards, so your safety is assured. Just take your empty cylinder to the nearest exchange point and swap it for a filled cylinder. Different cylinder sizes will be available to meet your pocket size. Imagine cooking in a smoke-free environment. This will improve the health and well-being of you and your family. Choose LPG in a safer model of distribution. Cylinder recirculation model. Securing your safety. Creating more jobs. A message from the National Petroleum Authority under the patronage of the Ministry of Energy.
Kwame and his uncle are almost here.
Wait a minute. This one too, your friend Kwame.
Wait, Kwame. As in the same Kwame again?
Yes, mommy.
The second coming. Into all this tension just to reintroduce that broke boy from Kaswa.
Why would you deceive the family like this again? Now I understand the whole delay. Trotro from Kaswati. Why wouldn't he be late? Obey him later.
Of course.
Star 712 hash, star 712 hash. Yeah, you go be the luckiest. Go be from Georgia, be luckiest. From Natepia, cause she be luckiest. Yeah, you go be luckiest. No better why you're luckiest. Everybody go be that luckiest.
That's Kwamio!
Send your God down for boom. If you put it away, so would the coming of the son of man be. Is that his car?
Dial star 712 hash. Choose your ticket. Enter your lucky number. Follow the prompts and let destiny handle the rest.
This promotion is regulated by the NLA on the Caritas platform.
I'm not waiting for anybody to make me happy. I happy myself. Oh, after mass, I don't want anybody to congratulate me. When I enter my room and I take my bottle of club, I open it into the glass. Oh, listen. I use the glass to hit the bottle. I say cheers. I cheer myself. I'm not waiting for anybody to cheer me up because I know who I am. I know that I am a seed. Wherever you, I'm not waiting for anybody to make me happy. I happy myself. Oh, after mass, I don't want anybody to congratulate me. When I enter my room and I take my bottle of club, I open it into the glass. Oh, listen. I use the glass to hit the bottle. I say cheers. I cheer myself. I'm not waiting for anybody to cheer me up because I know who I am. I know that I am a seed. Wherever you, I'm not waiting for anybody to make me happy. I happy myself. Oh, after mass, I don't want anybody to congratulate me. When I enter my room and I take my bottle of club, I open it into the glass. Oh, listen. I use the glass to hit the bottle. I say cheers. I cheer myself. I'm not waiting for anybody to cheer me up because I know who I am. I know that I am a seed. Wherever
the comment made by my opponent, Achim Sakawa people, I've not heard any public figure in this country, independent, yourselves or anybody, comment on it. It's completely unacceptable. If I was to get up to make a comment about Northerners or Gunchas, you can imagine the uproar that would be in the country. Presidential candidate, a former president of Ghana, you can call a group of Ghanaians Sakawa people, and it involves the group for which the sitting president comes, and that comment goes without, that statement goes without comment. And at the same time, we hear these statements. Let's all try and bring the politics of insults to an end, etc., etc. Occasions are given where specific comments can be made. Nothing happens. And then it's lost. It's lost in the generalities. I get the impression that because of the unfortunate, in some ways, authoritarian origins of our state in its area, where it was considered dangerous to criticize government, the pendulum has now swung the other way, where government is the only group you can criticize. If you criticize government, no matter what you say, is legitimate. If government was to respond, that's somehow illegitimate. Media freedom is interpreted as meaning the freedom to criticize others, but you can't criticize the press. If, for instance, they step out of bounds or they conduct themselves in an irresponsible manner. So all of this, I'm trying to say that it's a package that we all have to look at dispassionately.
Hello, good evening. Welcome to this edition of the program. It's always a pleasure to be here and to be with you. What's the big story? This morning there was a lot of quarrel on radio about the President's press conference. Two big issues coming out. His responses on Galamsey and his response to the Chief Justice's, the removal of the Chief Justice process. Good evening. Welcome to the show. Cheers. So for all of you at home, this is my cocoa drink. Did you see the president also sipping cocoa last night at the press conference? But his cap was nicer than mine. His cap was white. Mine is black. White, is white always nicer than black? I don't know. Earlier today, I was on Joy FM. Thank you for all of those who watch and encourage me. I was on the pulse on Joy FM today with Kojo Youngson, my good friend. And we had a conversation about this matter. I'll show you a little bit of something that I said that Joy FM have teased out onto their website. I've seen it. And we can deal with it. 39 minutes, 20 minutes on top of that at 10 o'clock. We begin, though, with something that turned out to be a revelation from the president's press conference. And guess what? It relates to the trial and prosecution of the former National Signals Bureau boss. Oh, can we take this off? Can you your screen? It relates to Kwabena Edubuahin and Dominic Ayini. I'll take you through it gingerly. It came out of the president's press conference because President Mahama had good news at the press conference in relation to this matter, and he made a big announcement. The big announcement also gave us some facts, those of us who have been following the Edubuahin trial. Where do we start from? Let's see the video of what President John Dramani Mahama said about an equipment that is available at the national security through the National Signals Bureau. Have a look at it.
If you go to some of the WhatsApp platforms or you go to some of the commentaries in the TikToks and others, we have what we call hate speech, incitement to violence. Those are criminal. Despite the fact that we have removed the criminal libel laws, there are some laws that make such people accountable. Because if we don't regulate that sector, it can lead this nation to war. There are some of the incendiary statements that have been made in the Boko situation that are fueling some of what is happening there, making people hate each other and see each other as enemies. It's been the same in the Gonja Brefo thing. Some people fanning and inciting violence against each other. This falls in the ambit of the National Signals Bureau. And so the National Signals Bureau now has the technology to use your IP number and find you wherever you are. So I'm sending a signal to Ghanaians that we can find you those doing those hate speech and things. We'll use your IP number, we'll trace you. And when we trace you, we'll deal with you under the criminal code for inciting violence and disturbance of the peace. But I believe that beyond that, we must start making regulation for this new media because it's unregulated. And so anybody just takes a phone and says, oh, this plane crash, I wish that so and so had been the one in the helicopter and had died, and dwarfs have eaten him in the forest. I mean, why would you say something like that?
Everyone supports the president's call, but I hope he knows that Ansan sits in America and this is his stock in trade. This is what Ansan does in America. He doesn't do any story, he doesn't do any news, he doesn't do any research. He picks people, insults them, incites violence, tribe against tribe, calls a tribe that they are stupid. That's what he's been doing over the last 4 years or 3 years, or whenever since that broadcast has been going on. So the president's call is a very good one and everyone supports it. Because you can't have, those of us who are doing regular news reporting, we have nothing to fear. I'm never going to put or something on social media, hide behind somebody and say that there is violence in Labadi. I can't see myself do that. It's not possible. It's never going to happen. That's not my training. And all those who were trained like me, nobody will do that. So we are never worried about fake news, as it were. And I'm happy that the president of Ghana is happy to deal with fake news. But he mentioned something. He said National Signals Bureau now have an equipment. That equipment appears to fall in the middle of these two gentlemen. First, Kwabena Edubuahin, in defense of himself, in relating to the prosecution of a certain 49 million, said in a letter written that money had been used to acquire equipment from an Israeli company. Blah, blah, blah. To do these things President Mahama is talking about. Dominic Ayini, the Attorney General, said that no equipment was procured. Nothing was done. And that is not there. I will show you a document in a minute about when and how the Attorney General said that. But the president, addressing the press yesterday, seemed to say that National Signals Bureau have an equipment. We know that since January up till now, National Signals Bureau have not acquired any equipment as far as the public procurement process will record. They haven't acquired any equipment. So, that equipment the president is talking about must be, most likely, the same set equipment that Kwabena Edubuahin referred to. So this is an equipment that has been inherited by the new bosses of the National Signals Bureau. And per this equipment, as was set up by Edubuahin, we are now able to track people using their IP address. So bad people who hide behind. So you go on Facebook and somebody, so you see their names on Facebook. Those people, you can tell. You see their name. It says that Kenun Frown. That's his name on Facebook. Or you go to some Facebook account and he says that Malata Crab. That's his name. His name is Malata Crab. Or if you check more, you see something like Konongo Show Boy. You have those kind of names on social media. Apparently, it turns out that a lot of these were used for the election. And I have to say that during the election, a lot of these addresses were used to foment trouble, to generate support for a candidate, to generate hatred against a candidate. All of these things happen in election 2024. I'm delighted that one of the important actors in election 2024, the eventual winner, John Dramani Mahama, president of Ghana, now sets out to deal with this matter, and we are very delighted that it's happening. But it must happen across board. These things have happened. People sit in America, put up a video, and they insult Ochehini, they insult Asante Hini, they insult Duncan Williams, they tell some tribe that they are stupid, and they do a lot of these tribal politics in pursuit of a political agenda. We hope this will now be the end. We will be monitoring to see what the government says. The government communication says when they see these things recurring, and some people told me that it will always recur because there's no other content that these people have. They don't have any other content. The only content they have is to insult people and to incite hatred. That's the quickest way to get views on social media when you are in an election frenzy. So this is very good. But the truth of the matter is that what President Mahama said appears to be the equipment that Kwabena Edubuahin procured. Let's look at the letter from the Dominic Ayini part of it. Let's look at the Dominic Ayini part of it. So it's here. Dominic Ayini said to the media that further investigations have revealed that no cybersecurity system of the description in the January 30, 2020 contract was ever received by the Bureau of National Communications or by its successor agency, the National Signals Bureau, or by the government of Ghana. An inventory confirmation from the National Security Secretariat shows that the equipment was never received into stores, as is the practice in the public service. So Dominic Ayini is talking about this equipment that was not received. Kwabena Edubuahin said that an equipment had been procured, which allows the system to monitor things, use IP address to find people who want to foment trouble. The Honorable Attorney General says nothing had been procured. Let's get to the letter that you were showing me now. Yes, okay. Do we have it removed? Okay, so there's a letter from ICS Holding International. They are international security consulting, and they write to Samuel Atachian, who is lawyer for Kwabena Edubuahin. And they say, response to your mail dated so and so, delivery of cyber security equipment to Ghana's national security, and a defamatory statement of and concerning blah, blah, blah. Okay, they have the letter here. Let's look at it. Greetings from the International Security Consultant, ICS, an international security consulting firm incorporated under the law of Israel with headquarters in Israel. First, we take this opportunity to emphasize that our response refers to Mr. Kwabena Edubuahin, during his duty as the Director General of the National Signals Bureau. Our company operates globally in the field of security consultancy. The management, okay, let's turn it over for me. Ooh, that's my screen frozen. Okay, let me just get, okay, yeah. The management of which does something high-level security projects and the training specialization. Okay, our consultants are seasoned, blah, blah, blah. We are known for delivering confidential, cutting-edge security, blah, 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 including third-party. Okay, now this is the important part. We hereby declare, and for the avoidance of doubt, all cyber defense systems procured by the NSB, supplied under a confidential agreement signed on January 30, 2020, with an associated continuing service covenant, were fully delivered to Ghana's national security. So, it suggests that this equipment is most likely what President Mahama is praising and relying on for the purpose of finding cyber criminals who pollute our news with fake news that can divide our people. It's almost certain that this is the equipment that President Mahama was referring to. Now, this is the equipment that has generated controversy in the trial, where the Attorney General says no equipment was delivered. The people who were set to supply the equipment said the equipment had been delivered. We still don't know whether it was delivered or wasn't delivered. But from what the President said last night at his press conference, it appears that yes, the equipment was delivered. Let's listen to the President again, and viewers, listen and see whether it is this that he may be referring to. Let's have a look at it.
If you go to some of the WhatsApp platforms, or you go to some of the commentaries in the TikToks and others, we have what we call hate speech, incitement to violence. Those are criminal. Despite the fact that we have removed the criminal libel laws, there are some laws that make such people accountable. Because if we don't regulate that sector, it can lead this nation to war. There are some of the incendiary statements that have been made in the Boko situation that are fueling some of what is happening there, making people hate each other and see each other as enemies. It's been the same in the Gonja Brefo thing. Some people fanning and inciting violence against each other. This falls in the ambit of the National Signals Bureau. And so the National Signals Bureau now has the technology to use your IP number and find you wherever you are. So I'm sending a signal to Ghanaians that we can find you those doing those hate speech and things. We'll use your IP number, we'll trace you. And when we trace you, we'll deal with you under the criminal code for inciting violence and disturbance of the peace. But I believe that beyond that, we must start making regulation for this new media because it's unregulated. And so anybody just takes a phone and says, oh, this plane crash, I wish that so and so had been the one in the helicopter and had died, and dwarfs have eaten him in the forest. I mean, why would you say something like that? And so we need regulation for that new emerging media. But in the meantime, the National Signals Bureau has been given the full authority to track down people who do that kind of thing and bring them to...
Yes, we love President Mahama for that. Carried across all board. So the big question is it the equipment that the Attorney General said never arrived that President Mahama is referring to? Or is it another equipment that has been procured recently? Unlikely, because there's not been any procurement by any government agency since the government started. Not many, but certainly not National Signals Bureau. So it will appear, as they say, vindication is in the womb of time, that Kwabena Dubois may be right. That he said that we use the money to buy the equipment. The equipment is there. The National Signals Bureau are using it. President Mahama said they now have an equipment to do XYZ. Is that not so? Okay, we'll keep an eye on this one. There's another matter relating to this. Justice Ramsay, the Deputy Attorney General, says that counsel for the accused persons, the Honorable Atachia, throws matters in case to the media and puts pressure on the case. Justice Ramsay is concerned, and legitimately so, that Justice Ramsay is the Deputy Attorney General. He is concerned, and legitimately so, that the learned Atachia here is throwing the cases into the media, like I'm doing now. I'm talking about the case. The other day, Captain Smart was talking about the case. The other day, Black Rasta was talking about the case against the Dubois from Iyoko. Black Rasta has a dossier of something Iyoko has told him, and he's consistently churning out narratives against Kwabena Dubois and against his innocence. So that's in the media. Now, that media of Black Rasta is not coming from Atachian. In any case, Justice Sremsai, it was your boss, Dominic Ayine, who first held a press conference and put the matter in the public domain. I don't think Atachian has held a press conference to say anything about this matter. Atta has not. Atta has only granted interviews when he leaves court. But because the case has been made a high-profile case by Sremsai and his boss, the Attorney General, they hold press conference. Well, it's been a while since Attorney General did one, but he was holding press conferences. Many members of the Bar Association who are unaligned. I think the bar must form a non-aligned bar because you see, this is just a passing comment. There's NDC Lawyers Association. I'm guessing they formed that because they were reacting to MPP Lawyers Association. There has to be the non-aligned movement of the Ghana Bar Association. Are you there? Barristers who are non-aligned. Can you form the non-aligned Ghana Bar Association? So, naturally, lawyers from both NDC and MPP were concerned that the Attorney General is putting up these matters in the public domain and there's not the best way to handle criminal prosecutions. So that raised the stakes. When you raise the stakes like that, journalists are very likely to go to Atachian and says that, but the Attorney General says your client has stolen money. And Atta will say, no, he hasn't. Come to my office and I'll show you the document. And they are entitled to that. It's a democracy. And the media expression is an integral part of the democratic expression. So Justice Sremsai, the Deputy Attorney General, please calm down. Atachian has not done anything wrong. Media will forever go and look for the information from Atachian. They will. Because Dominic Ayine tells us a side of the story. So we always need to get the other side of the story. All the time pattern, isn't it? Here the other side. So we always need the other side of the story. Because Dominic Ayine has told us his side of the story. He's a prosecutor. He's told us his side of the story. If you are a journalist, you don't just want to run with that. You want to hear Atachian's side of the story, and then you can decide which one you are publishing at the risk of being contemptuous of the court. That's what happens to all media houses. That's what happens. So I saw the comments and I thought I should just calm down Justice Sremsai. He should calm down. He should calm down. There's a long road ahead. We're going to walk that road. We are not anywhere yet. We're just 8 months into the agenda, into the reset agenda. So he should calm down. Atachian hasn't done anything wrong. And that will end the conversation on Kwabena Dubois. And now let's come to the big issue. Yesterday at the press conference, there was another very big issue. What is it? Two things were going to always come up in this press conference. We were disappointed, though. I was disappointed that the question about presidential jets didn't find its way. And I saw that there were many journalists who had their hands up. They couldn't be called because of lack of time and choices and all of that. So I think that the question maybe was in one of those hands and it was buried. But anyway, it didn't come. Two questions that came. The question on Galamsey, which was a very big story, has always been a big story, and it was always going to come. Mr. President was aware that Galamsey was always going to come. He was very aware. The other one that came was the suspension, the removal. That's the word that is used. The removal of the Lord Chief Justice, Justice Tokonu, from office, pursuant to Article 146 process. Those two are what we are going to deal with now. How the answers were handled, what civil society thought about it, what's the way forward, etc., etc. So first, let's hear the question that was asked by Joy FM's Kojo Yankson on Galamsey.
My name is Kojo Yankson. I'm the host of the Super Morning Show on Joy. Mr. President, you've already talked about how important it is to safeguard the water bodies and the forest reserves. But over the past 9 months since you became president, the turbidity levels in the water bodies have worsened, according to the Water Resources Commission. Ghana Water Company supports this by saying that they've had to shut down several treatment plants because the water sources are too polluted for them to process. Besides that, we know that there have been increased incursions into forest reserves for Galamsey. We've also heard from your transport minister that we are importing more excavators than ever before, over 200 a day. My question about this is about its effect on the economy. Recently, the finance minister has been touting the work of the Gold Board led by Sami Jemfi for being an anchor to the economy, especially when it comes to stabilizing the cedi. My question is, does your government know, is your government able to tell the difference between gold from Galamsey and gold from regular concessions when the Gold Board is buying gold from local producers? And could it be, because so much of it comes from Galamsey, could that be the reason why we are seeing some reluctance recently in the fight against Galamsey, in the sense that the IGP's efforts have been stopped and he's brought back his men from the forests? Could this be because?
Thank you very much. I think your point is made.
So the question was loaded, but it had a fundamental yes or no in it. The fundamental yes or no arose out of the narrative that the Galamsey menace that we have been experiencing over the last 20 years can be stopped, ended, terminated by a presidential decision to impose a state of emergency. You can agree with that. A state of emergency will mean, like those of you who are old enough when COVID came, what we went through during COVID. You can't move, you can't this, you can't that, you can't that. So when you impose a state of emergency in the areas where there's Galamsey, it is illegal for people to be moving in those areas. And therefore, the security forces take over and people who are seen to be moving would have committed an offense. That's the point. That's the point about state of emergency. And it sounded very plausible and sensible to many of us who were worried about the Galamsey menace. Now, why doesn't the president just impose a state of emergency? A state of emergency is usually a final resort for something that you can't do anything about. And we all believe that at that time, 2022, 2023, we had gotten to the point where the government's efforts had failed, and therefore, we needed to put a state of emergency and stop it. Let's watch these videos of some of the apologists of the NDC campaign and some of the anti-Akufo-Addo voices that insisted that a state of emergency was the way to go. Have a look.
They should declare a state of emergency. All mining should just stop now.
Yes, we have to declare it. Declare a state of emergency.
Just as we declared lockdown during COVID, let there be a certain declaration of it. It shows seriousness.
Yes, I think that national emergency be declared now and today, not tomorrow.
President Akufo-Addo, stop Galamsey now! We will continue this fight and we will continue this struggle until our water bodies are protected.
It is his responsibility. The people of Ghana elected him. He is currently the president of Ghana. And it is his responsibility to deal with Galamsey now.
A few moments later.
You saw the video. Minister for Foreign Affairs, Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa, says, declare a state of emergency now, President Akufo-Addo. Current Minister for Education, Idrisu Haruna, a state of emergency must be declared now. The most significant, current Minister for Lands, the Honorable Ama Kofi Boa of Elembele, nice man. He said the only solution is to declare a state of emergency. Honorable Kofi Boa has become Lands Minister. Today, he's in charge of it. He thought that the solution was a state of emergency. He was clear in his mind, and we all agree with him that the solution is to declare a state of emergency. He's today Lands Minister. Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa said that you have to declare a state of emergency not tomorrow, not 3 days' time, not next week, but now. Now, declare. Today, he's Minister for Foreign Affairs. Sam Nate George led a demonstration with Ghana flag around him. Said that President Akufo-Addo must declare a state of emergency. Today, he's a minister for communication. The question was put to the president yesterday. Given the escalated concerns about Galamsey in terms of the damage that it is doing, it's doing more damage today than, if you do a year-on-year analysis, Galamsey is doing more damage in September 2025 than it did in September 2024. If you go to year-on-year, July 2024 to July 2025, you will find 2025 worse. Almost every indicator about Galamsey is worse today. Later on, I'll read to you Erastus Asare-Donko's Facebook post, and you'll see it. So the question was put to His Excellency the President, who was running this campaign. Last night, this is what President John Dramani Mahama said.
I've been reluctant to implement a state of emergency in the Galamsey fight because we've not exhausted the powers we even have without a state of emergency. We have the opportunity to arrest anybody, to confiscate any such thing. There are laws for forest protection and all that give us enough powers to be able to act. Implementing a state of emergency might sound nice, but it should be the last extreme, the last resort. So for now, let's exercise all the powers we have. And if it becomes necessary for a state of emergency, then we'll look at it. It means we have to go to Parliament. The President can't just declare a state of emergency without, going to Parliament, because there's a limit to how long you can maintain that state of emergency. And so I believe that we still have leverage to continue to fight Galamsey without necessarily implementing a state of emergency. It means that we have to delineate the areas where the state of emergency is operational. And if you look at the area where Galamsey is taking place, it covers several districts of our country. And so we would do it if it becomes necessary. But for now, I think that we've given the security services enough powers to be able to deal with people who are found to be involved in Galamsey.
State of emergency is off the table. Earlier, before the press conference, Johnson Asiedu Nkatia, the chairman of the National Democratic Congress, also indicated that the state of emergency was not something they were considering because it has economic implications. Yesterday, President Mahama addressed other economic implications, the employment situation created by Galamsey. If they do a state of emergency, all of these people are going to stay at home, they are going to contribute to robbery, etc. The jury is out there on the answers the president gave for the Galamsey issue. Let's see what some civil society actors said. First, we begin. Now, let me have the president. First, we begin with the president as it was over there. Yes, this is what was captured by 3 News. He said, I've been reluctant to declare a state of emergency in the Galamsey fight because we haven't exhausted the powers we even have without the state of emergency. I was listening to Joy this evening. I heard somebody from Forestry Commission really struggling to make the point. The interviewer was very hard on him. That what are you talking about? And civil society this morning or across the networks on radio stations have been very upset. They've been terribly upset. They're all very angry about the president's answers. What do they say? Do you have some for me? Let's go to the civil society one. They're going to put it up, and then we look at it. This is the first one. This is by Manasseh Azuri. It's not that long. Let's read it. President Mahama has been brilliant tonight. From his first term and now, President Mahama has always demonstrated a strong grasp on all the sectors. He is not the kind that can be easily fooled by a minister or an appointee. On Galamsey, however, he has been very disappointing. The decay did not start in the last 8 years of Akufo-Addo. As the president said, I was a journalist when President Mahama was president. In his first term, I did not see the seriousness in fighting the menace, and his body language doesn't seem to show that it will be any different. The land that is destroyed because of Galamsey can produce food crops, so we should stop creating the impression that the only alternative to illegal mining is deviant acts, as the president said. Why disband the IGP's task force instead of just asking them to verify permits when they visit a site? Which sites did the task force invade that turned out to be a legitimate mining concession? Mr. President, So far, you have done well. Ghanaians are beginning to hope again in many sectors. But unless after listening, I don't get that word, but after listening to you tonight in the fight against Galamsey, I feel more hopeless after listening to you tonight. That is from investigative journalist Manasseh Azuri telling President Mahama that after the answers he heard the president give, he, Manasseh, feels hopeless. Okay, this one is my best. It comes from Suleiman Brima, who is the Media Foundation for West Africa's executive secretary. He says, Akufo-Addo fought Galamsey harder than Mahama's current government. Suleiman Brima fires. The other day, I said, one day, it's turning out to be sooner than I thought. We will come back and talk about Akufo-Addo. One day, very soon, when things settle, and we now can feel, and I've seen it. I saw the berating of J.A. Kufuor in 2008, what everybody said. Today, everybody says Kufuor is a hero. We will come back and see that sometimes the heat of the situation, sometimes the anti-propaganda, which can be vile, can even be evil, it can cloud our imaginations given the economic circumstance. And then it sort of takes away the real judgment that we should deliver. Otherwise, how is Suleiman Brima? I'm not done with Suleiman Brima. Let me finish with it. How is Suleiman Brima talking about Akufo-Addo in a positive light in reference to John Dramani Mahama? It is only because he has seen John Dramani Mahama's governance, he's seen Akufo-Addo's governance, and so he sits in a position to be able to do the analysis. And in his context, relating to Galamsey, which is one of the pivotal points for which the NPP lost the election, one of the pivotal points for which Dr. Bawumia was outvoted and people didn't even turn up, one of the pivotal points which was heaped on Akufo-Addo, and it was said that Akufo-Addo's presidency is the worst that Ghana has ever had. Worst that Ghana has ever had. The one who introduced a major social intervention policy. They said that his government is the worst that Ghana has had. And that was heaped on Dr. Bawumia, of course. Today, in September, Suleiman Brima says, Akufo-Addo fought Galamsey harder than Mahama's current government. Ooh. Is it true? I don't believe it. Is it true? Let's go to Ken Ashigbe, what he said. Ken Ashigbe said something. Yes. He said, the story is that, he says, President Mahama's response on Galamsey fights is disappointing. The Ghana Coalition of Galamsey has criticized President John Dramani Mahama's response to the country's ongoing illegal mining crisis, describing his comments during Wednesday's presidential encounter as uninspiring and failing to reflect the urgency of the environmental emergency facing the nation. That's Ken Ashigbe. I'm not saying much. I'm just relying on people. This is the most interesting one. It's by Erastus Asare-Donkor. And please get me the Shamima Muslim's response to the thing, the one I sent you. We'll do that. Miracle Sabwaji has been tagging Shamima Muslim with her post of 2024 about Galamsey. And Shamima has written a response. I like viewers to see that. Shamima Muslim is the deputy government spokesperson at the office of the president. Miracle Sabwaji is Dr. Bawumia's spokesperson. Erastus Asare-Donkor, a journalist who has distinguished himself and gained significant reputation for focusing on environmental issues, and he's almost the authority on Galamsey in terms of reporting and in terms of knowing what is really happening. I'm happy that the coalition works with him and everyone works with him. I'm happy that Multimedia have given him a space to be able to do the environmental thing. This is very, very nice. I like that. Erastus Asare-Donkor, congratulations. He says as follows: the president did not inspire hope and urgency in the fight against Galamsey. He watered down on a very precious situation, just as he has done always. I don't know whether that's fair. He said he watered down on a very precious situation, just as he has done always. The always parts, I'm not sure about it. Erastus, always means what? Yes, precarious. He watered down a very precarious situation, just as he has done always. It's the always that I'm concerned about. Always, I don't know where it's coming from, but I don't know how fair that is. Let's move on. His posture reflected complicity on the infractions on the ground, whistling down a decapitation to a broken arm. I totally disagree with him on the withdrawal of the IGP's men and accusing them of not knowing the difference between legal small-scale miners and illegal miners. That is a total fallacy. It shows, Erastus says, that is either the president was ill-briefed about the situation in the ground, or he was totally clueless of what happens on the ground. Or maybe he is also joining the bandwagon of deliberate spinning of falsehoods in a bid to give the dog a bad name to hang it, unquote. Erastus goes further. He says, I challenge the president to name a single licensed small-scale mining entity that is mining responsibly on the ground. What is a small-scale mining entity doing, he asked, in a forest reserve when the law does not give permits to same to mine in a forest reserve? Who licensed small-scale mining companies to be mining inches away from the rivers Pra, Ankobra, Tano, Ofin, Ayensu, Bia? Ofin and the others were the task force. Ofin and the others where the task force arrested them. In a normal civilized society, it is not the police that is clothed with law enforcement. In a normal civilized society, he asked, is it not the police that is clothed with law enforcement? How different are nature crimes from the armed robberies that the police fight? When the president says, quote, every policeman gets up and goes after illegal miners, by unquote, by implication, he's saying that nature crimes are no longer crimes at the local level unless identified by NIMOS. That's the Blue Water people, I believe. Is the president respectfully asking local police to stay away from nature crimes, and for that matter, Galamsey, just like it happened under the previous administration? It's equally disappointing to hear the president say, quote, we can't be chasing after them when we have not provided them alternatives, unquote. Excuse me to say, he says, it's just like telling the armed robbers, money doublers, and scammers to continue with their criminal activity until government finds employment for them. I'm sorry, he says, this is not the president of a country that has more than 60% of its water bodies polluted and laden with heavy metals. This, he continues, is not the president of a country with 44 of its forest reserves attacked in a spate of 8 years. He says further, this is not the president of a country whose towns and villages and highways have been taken over by haphazard illegal mining. This is not the president of a country whose muddy rivers are polluted the sea. This is not the president of a country whose forest reserves are turning into miles of pits and gullies waiting for another generation to seek loans to reclaim them. This is definitely not the president of a country whose newborn babies are registering childhood cancers, deformities, and strange ailments from irresponsible mining. This is not the president of a country that is worried about the grave environmental suicide, crippling cocoa production, and contaminating its cocoa exports. The IGP's men did a good job. They were fearless. They have their flaws, but they brought the nonsense under control. Mr. President, some of your party executives and appointees who were not happy with the way they were pouring sand in their gari started a propagandist agenda to give the dog a bad name and to hang it. Today, as I write after the president's submissions and compromised, in quote, compromised position on Galamsey, many illegal miners are meeting in Samamboy and other areas. They say they've been asked to go back and erode the gains we made. Let's serve a warning. Mr. President, you are repeating the mistakes of the previous regime and you know the consequences. I find it a bit lame some of your answers to the questions on Galamsey. We all know that Blue Water Guard is not the solution to mining on water bodies. The solution lies in a strong statement that certain areas are no-go areas for mining. My worry is that we have a citizenry so divided by partisan politics that they reason like blind people to the truth about their very existence. The future of generations is being decimated. Instead of looking at the bigger picture, many Ghanaians are minding their own business. Those who speak are only seeking partisan leverages to please the political class. Some of us will continue to push strongly the situation on the ground and do our bit as journalists. The media we have consistently is failing this country. If only we would be serious about this, we could help push us all towards responsible mining. An epistle from the very disappointed, frustrated, and angry journalist in the mines, Erastus Asaridonko of the Multimedia Group. That's his epistle. Frustrated, angry about the situation. Bottom line, the police have been asked to leave. Apparently, they were asked to leave in the previous regime as well. But they've been asked to leave. And this is the issue. Where are the voices? Where is Sam George? Where is Samuel Okujeto Ablakwa? I didn't see him in the room. I don't know whether he's there. Maybe he's traveled. The lands minister, the man in charge, the Honorable Amako Fibua, said there should be a state of emergency. The party chair, Johnson Asidu Ketia, says they cannot do a state of emergency. I'm not saying they should do a state of emergency. I believe the president spoke the truth. But the truth he spoke today is being compared with the truth that they put out yesterday. And one truth is becoming deficit of truth. One truth is losing the truth deficit. It's getting more deficit of truth, even though it is also called truth. That's a lesson we can talk about another day. Related to this Galamsey story, and I've ended the Galamsey story. Related to the Galamsey story is the excavator. Thank you very much. I like this one. I want Shamima's response. Do you have it? I believe they do. They have it. Yes. Okay, great. Let me go to this one first. So earlier today, as they are all doing, give me the red one first. Miracles Abuaje put up this post of the deputy government spokesperson today, Shamima Muslim. It is posted on 11 September 2024. And this is what she says. She's reporting something from the Ghana Journalists Association. She says, declare state of emergency over water bodies. GJA to President Akufo-Addo and Alhaji Bawumia. LI 2462 must be repealed. The MPP must face strict accountability on this matter. Should we replace the word MPP here and put NDC here? Should we replace President Akufo-Addo and Alhaji Bawumia and put President Mahama and Jenana Opoku-Agyemang? We can easily do that. This was September 11th. It is September 11th, a year on year. It's very easy to do that, and it will still make sense. It will make perfect sense if we say, declare a state of emergency over water bodies. GJA to President Mahama and Professor Jenana Opoku-Agyemang. LI 2462 must be repealed. The NDC must face strict accountability on this matter. That's what Shamima Muslim posted a year ago. At all material times, we knew that the campaign was not being conducted in a way that will give all of us peace. Because we knew that the way the campaign is being conducted, where truth is given very little opportunity, tomorrow will be pregnant. And that's where we are. Our tomorrow has started. It's not ending anytime soon. It's just started. This is Shamima Muslim. But to be fair to her, she responded. This is what she said. She said, I have seen, as always, a coordinated ambrag from, am I pronouncing the word well? From, quote, they who must never be criticized, unquote. For the avoidance of doubt, I respectfully own this statement. Thank you, Shamima. Posted from a GJA press conference on 11 September 2024, reiterating national calls for amplified actions after the collapse of multiple anti-Galamsey campaigns of the NPP government. If it comes to the point where the conditions and complicities that existed then arise in the current approach towards the menace, be assured that I will make the same, even stronger statement on my own accord. Until then, let the advocacy continue whilst government listens and acts and communicates its actions and results. May our dear country stand ready to overcome this menace. Hashtag, she says, Karma hasn't left his home yet. It remains safely tagged in the trunk of his winning symbol. Thank you for your kind attention. Okay, so Shamima Muslim says that she still stands by the statement, but the circumstances of today does not make it relevant for a state of emergency to be declared, if I'm paraphrasing her well. But this is what she said. But is it not very interesting? The same date, 11th of September 2024. 11th of September 2024, nobody knew that a year from this time, that the Prophet Roger says that a year from this time, John Mahama will be president, he will give a press conference, and he will say that he doesn't have to declare a state of emergency. Prophet Roger didn't see it, Prophet W didn't see it, Prophet Y didn't see it. No one saw it coming. So it's quite interesting the way life throws these things at us. And when you become an adult, you get humbled, don't you? You get humbled. How life can throw these things at us. Did we know? This is 11 September 2024. The campaign was up in arms. It was feisty. Shamima Muslim was on the campaign trail for the NDC. She was punching hard the Galamsey balloon. Everybody punched hard into the Galamsey balloon. And they knew that Ghanaians were unhappy with the color of the water that Erastus was showing on his broadcast. They knew that if Ghanaians were to be told that this was NPP and Akufo-Addo's problem, they will vote against them and they will vote in the NDC. They knew that. Did they also know that you don't have to do a state of emergency? That sometimes the police go and they are chasing minors anyhow? Did they know that? I leave that for you viewers. Very little for me to say. But this is the post. This is an interesting video. I'll be reading the comments when we put up the video on this one to see where it is. Then there's another matter. Excavators. Hey, this matter. He rose up one morning to find that Ghana, our beloved country, is importing excavators like crazy. Chese, excavators are coming into the country left, right, center. These excavators you see on the TV by the Joy News video, they were being moved from the port in the night. The transport minister has explained that it was creating congestion. So they were trying to create space. And so they moved it to a safe military base in Tema. Michel Camp it was. All of these excavators have been imported. By whom? Because of what? And I mean, this very situation should cause us concern. We are importing 200,000 excavators into the country. That's the number they give us. 200,000. What are they going to do? And it's not coming because it's not coming from the road minister. 200 of it come one day, one single day. Today is Thursday. So today, 200. Yesterday, 200. Excavators. Who are these people who are finding the confidence to import the excavator? Can we just publish the names of the owners of the excavators that came into Ghana over the last 5 months? Can we do that? Should we not do that? Just go ahead and publish the names and the company names. So journalists can call them and say that you are a company and so you imported excavators, 6 of it. What are you going to use it for? You are a service delivery company. You are an IT company. You have imported excavators. Or you are an individual, Mr. Individual. You are a lawyer in Ashanti region. Why have you imported 5 excavators? What are you going to use it for? If the government really wants to solve this problem, that's what they should do. Publish. Publish who brought in those excavators. How much was paid at the port? How much money has the port made from importing those excavators? And allow media people, news reporters to now be able to engage with those members of the public who are responsible for the 200 excavators every day. Do they have political cover? Do they have military cover? Do they have security cover? Is that the reason why they are confidently importing excavators? Do they know some people in Jubilee House? What is happening? What is happening? Look at it. Look at the excavators. The fact that these excavators are coming into Ghana alone should be a problem for all of us. Oliver Vomaho, are you there? Have you heard that the excavators have come into Ghana and they are going to be used to do Galamsey, as people are alleging? These are the excavators. These are the excavators. Joy News published it. The Minister for Transport did not deny it, but he explained that they are going to military camp for safekeeping. This is what is happening. Earlier today on Joy News, I was being interviewed and I spoke about it. And they put up a video. I'd like to share it with you instead of repeating the same thing. Have a look at the video. And Joy News, they have a very nice studio. I was in one of their nice studios today. Have a look.
We have seen the number of excavators coming into the country, which itself is disaster. That information is very disastrous. And why are we not doing anything about that information? Just that information alone, whether it's going to be kept at Michelle Camp at 1 BN, whether it's going to be kept, there has to be a serious interrogation by civil society of that information. Why is Ghana, 30 million people, sitting on this mass line, importing excavators more than any country in the world? That is enough information for us to go gaga. But here we are hearing explanations from Minister said this and what are the excavators coming to do? Is it coming through the Ministry of Roads and Transport? Are they building roads? What are they going to do? Point is, you can tell where the excavators are going. And that's serious. We have seen the number of excavators coming into the country, which itself is disaster. That information is very disastrous. And why are we not doing anything about that information? Just that information alone, whether it's going to be kept at Michelle Camp at 1 BN, whether it's going to be kept, there has to be a serious interrogation by civil society of that information. Why is Ghana, 30 million people, sitting on this mass line, importing excavators more than any country in the world? That is enough information for us to go gaga. But here we are hearing explanations from Minister said this and what are the excavators coming to do? Is it coming through the Ministry of Roads and Transport? Are they building roads? What are they going to do? Point is, you can tell where the excavators are going. And
it was on pause earlier today. Let's go to the text messages. When we come back, Bernard Avle, the city, the managing director, general manager of City FM and Channel 1 TV, had occasion to ask a question, and he did. His question was particularly interesting for political philosophers, constitutionalists, separation of powers intellectuals, those who had to drink tea with Montesquieu back in the day. And all of those people were very excited about the question Bernard Avle asked. Because for some of them, building the society is very important. And we have to make sure that we put the strands together. And so a conversation about getting the president of Ghana to talk about an Article 146 process over which he has recently presided was a perfect spot for last night's conversation. But did they get disappointed or did they get fulfillment? When we come back from the text message, we will deal with that part of the conversation from last night's historic presser by the president of Ghana. Fatih, I'm coming to you now. What are people saying?
Right. Thank you, Paul. So Kasim Abu Sadiq here says, it's really disappointing listening to the president yesterday. The president indeed believes that Ghanaians have short memories. If not, he wouldn't have said what he said yesterday when the question on Galamsey was asked. The likes of Professor Jambo must bow their heads in shame. Their caliber are those who make people believe that there are no neutral concerned Ghanaians everywhere. Everyone is definitely fighting for their own interest. Indeed, let's give some time. Alhaji Yusuf Husseini says, Shamima Muslim wanted to say that let the advocacy continue whilst she continues to enjoy her salary and all the other benefits that comes with her appointment. Such hypocrisy. Yeah, February says gold board establishment is the only hope of the NDC government, so it will be very difficult for the government to stop Galamsey and let their efforts in growing the economy and appreciation of the Ghana cedis to other currencies eradicate. When the gold procured by gold board is mostly from the small-scale illegal miners. Samuel Kwachi also says, President Mahama, how long more after 9 months in power Is he going to exhaust his powers of halting the existential threat called Galamsey? Nana Jomo from Nkranza also comes to say the Australian government is strictly enforcing its mining laws to ensure responsible practices. Our president should do the same here in Ghana, flying small-scale miners to Australia while failing to enforce our own mining laws and regulations is much ado about nothing, and yet another waste of taxpayers' money. Aziza Mankwa also says, John Mahama can't shut up Ghanaians. We are learning from him. Was he not the one who said, answer this question, damn stupid, in quote, on a political platform to the sitting vice president? He called the sitting president Achim Mafia and Achim Sakawa. Were they not human beings? Now it's his turn and he should swallow it. If he is serious, he should start with Kelvin Taylor, who is working for him, and deal with him for us to see his seriousness. Shipman from Atonsu Kumasi says, President Mahama's comment on declaring a state of emergency on Galamsey shows that this government is a total scam, and it's unfortunate. This government lacks credibility and direction, and there is nothing better ahead of Ghanaians under NDC. Quentil Captain also says, this whole media encounter to me was boring. There was no question and or addresses on the LGBTQ+, Boku crisis, Ghanaians fleeing to Ivory Coast, and road crashes, which is killing the ordinary Ghanaian now more than anything. Insecurity and killings, 24-hour economy, among others. Posterity will surely be the east of judge sooner than that. Long live Nanado. And lastly, coming from Ali Sisino, who he says, the president have not been fair to Ghanaians at all. This is a lesson to us as a nation. Now back to you, Paul.
Whoa, the text messages are coming in thick and fast, and we're looking at it. People are asking me to show a particular video. About 3 people opened my phone. They said, show that video, show that video. Maybe I'll show it. Maybe I won't show it. Now, though, we have a 5-minute break that I need to take. When we come back, full analysis of the question asked by Bernard Abler of the president relating to the unfortunate removal of the Chief Justice, Gertrude Arabatokonu, pursuant to Article 146 process. Indeed, the Chief Justice celebrated her birthday today. We have some photographs for you on how she shared her day with people she considers important on her 63rd birthday. That's coming up later on. Now, there's a break. And when we come back after 5 minutes, the analysis on the touchscreen will continue. This is Good Evening Ghana is live, and thank you for watching.
Made by my opponent, Achim Sakawa people. I've not heard any public figure in this country, independent, yourselves or anybody, comment on it. It's completely unacceptable. If I...
Almost here.
Wait a minute. This one too, your friend Kwame.
Wait, Kwame. As in the same Kwame again?
Yes, Mommy.
I'm the second coming. Into all this tension just to reintroduce that broke boy from Kaswa.
Why would you deceive the family like this again? Now I understand the whole delay. Trotro from Kaswa. Why wouldn't he be late? Obey you later.
Of course.
Star 712 hush, star 712 hush. Yeah, you go be the luckiest. Copy from Georgia be luckiest. From not the cause she be luckiest. Yeah, you go be luckiest. No matter why you're luckiest. Everybody go be the luckiest.
That's Kwame.
Senya God the apple boom. If you put it that way, so would the coming of the Son of Man be. Is that his car?
Dial *712 hash. Choose your ticket, enter your lucky number, follow the prompts, and let destiny handle the rest.
This promotion is regulated by the NLA on the Caritas platform.
Watch it, na learning. Missy, watch and learn. Makwaya mabesisia. Abozig. Akache say no ya konate and the more drink woman. Hey. But I didn't mean. Oh, sorry. She knew her. Oh, dish. Eji. Dabio, baby wom. Ready. Hey, baby wom. Ah, Eji. I'll cause some discomfort. Sorry, well, uncle, where would the dad? Why your funeral? At to phone for Aerofield Trading. Sorry, it killed them all.
No mum share Nanda Daya was mosquito call is to do woman. Na say spray with them musa. Chaisima a dronum and sana ko dynamo.
And Kratoi FDA Ajatum.
In my line of work, a confident smile is everything. Kel Charcoal Toothpaste keeps me on top of my game and ensures my smile is always radiant and bright.
With the tiring nature of my job, we spend several hours under the scorching sun. To keep our teeth white and our breath fresh all the time, we use none other than Kel Charcoal Toothpaste. Kel Charcoal Toothpaste. You're on a Kessie and in a kit one.
Samayo Kendini, a who be here, Sametra Sapapadia to a mammy man for Kel Charcoal's natural ingredients, and a bomb is so buying, a man is swing, and a sansu mama hotel so a will beg you.
Kel Charcoal Toothpaste. Choose Kel Charcoal Toothpaste for anti-cavity, whiter teeth, and fresher breath all day. Available in 80 gram and 150 gram. Grab yours today.
Kel, happy smile. This advert is FDA approved.
The comment made by my opponent, Achim Sakawa people, I've not heard any public figure in this country, independent, yourselves or anybody, comment on it. It's completely unacceptable. If I was to get up to make a comment about Northerners or Gunchas, you can imagine the uproar that would be in the country. Presidential candidate, a former president of Ghana, you can call a group of Ghanaians Sakawa people, and it involves the group for which the sitting president comes, and that comment goes without, that statement goes without comment. And at the same time, we hear these statements. Let's all try and bring the politics of insults to an end, etc., etc.
Welcome back to the show, and that's those of you who saw the video, President Akufo-Addo. If last night's press conference had been held by President Akufo-Addo in 2024, in September, he said that state of emergency can't do it. You can imagine the uproar, what the civil society and all those people, what they would have said about it. Anyway, let's continue with our production. We now get onto the story about the other question that was asked in the president's press conference. Two more stories for us to go. We will distill this one, and then we will talk about the Abronya situation. Abronya appears in the High Court tomorrow with charges now preferred against him. We'll get a sense of what is all that about. Okay. Now, though, back to the press conference and to Bernard Ablay.
We are told democracy thrives on checks and balances and separation of powers. Your party has a 2/3 majority in parliament. The Chief Justice you came to meet has been removed, of course, under your hand, although the process was gone through. There is talk of the EC chair and the leadership, quote, not being fit for purpose by members of your party. Some people fear that these developments and others create a situation where the other arms of government are completely subservient to the executive. In fact, one newspaper expressed the fear that you could be morphing into, quote, a supreme leader, unquote. There is a maxim that power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. Should we be worried in your legacy term that the democracy you came to meet will be well oiled and that the three arms of government will work not in subservience but in unison? Thank you.
Fantastic question. I thought he gave up an opportunity for the president to update us on a few things. I thought that, I'm thinking there was a question that probably the president didn't get an opportunity to ask. But there's another question that I hear was in the room over there, which is that, Your Excellency, Mr. President, have you received the petition for the impeachment of the Electoral Commission and her deputies? I think that question should have come. Or perhaps the president should have taken the opportunity, because just last week, we heard of a group who said they have sent a petition to the president for the removal of the Electoral Commissioner, and that it's not being done or it's not being adhered to, something like that. So, maybe that question. But this question was asked that, Mr. President, under your hand, the Chief Justice has been removed. Never mind the threats that were given during the campaign that she will be removed. She has been removed. Your party carries a legislative authority of 2/3 of the parliament, the first time it ever happened in the history of the Fourth Republic. And now there seems to be a petition on its way to your desk for the removal of the Electoral Commission. So, are you becoming an autocratic leader? Are you undermining the democracy that you have inherited in January 2025? This is the question. Fantastic question. Some people feel the president didn't answer it correctly. Some people feel he answered it correctly. This is the answer the president offered.
Bernard said, I'm in danger of becoming a supreme leader. Look in my face. Do I look like a supreme leader? And that is to paraphrase Prof. Star. Mills, do I look like a cat hunter? Do I look like a supreme leader? I'm a Democrat true and true. And even when we attained 2/3 of parliament, I said that we're not going to use it to ride roughshod over the minority, and that we're going to give opportunity for democracy to flourish. And so we don't intend to use our 2/3 majority to steamroll our democracy. We believe that even though the people of Ghana gave us that overwhelming majority, it wasn't meant to turn Ghana into a dictatorship. They gave it to us in order that we could carry out reforms to make our governance better. And I think that we stand a very good chance with that 2/3 majority to finally move the amendments to the Constitution that we have all wanted. In the past, because of hung parliaments and all that, we couldn't make any progress, because there are some of those amendments for which you need an overwhelming majority. And so Ghanaians have given us that opportunity and say, look, go ahead and do these things so that we can have a better constitution that will take Ghana for many more generations to come. And so that's what I believe. But I certainly am not on the way to becoming a supreme leader or an autocrat.
Wow. That was the president's answer. He didn't talk about the CJ removal. He didn't talk about the Electoral Commission. I thought he would take the opportunity to sort of deal with what happened in Article 146, whether his hand was in it, his hand wasn't in it, the 10,000 that he received, and bring some transparency to bear, because many people have been asking that, can we have some transparency in the process? And those who hold the power say that they go quickly to Article 146 and say that it's an in-camera process. We cannot give you anything. I was wondering whether the document that the government has inherited from the Charlotte Osei trial cannot be made public now. Maybe they should. And we don't even know whether they've inherited it, whether they have the documents, the processes that Article 146 went through with Charlotte Osei, with Chief Justice Sophia Kufu, that period. I don't know whether they have it, but they should have it because they've inherited it. Can they share that at least? So that maybe another government can come and share the one that they have received based on Article 146 process. I was going to do some two procedural issues on 1463 and 1466, how different they are. I'll not do it today. I'll probably do it in the next program because we are losing time a little bit. But just to suffice it to say, though, that Article 1433 is the procedure for removing a Supreme Court judge. Article 1466 is the procedure for removing a Chief Justice. The argument is being made that can you apply one of them to do the two? That is to say, can you apply 1466 to remove both a Chief Justice and Supreme Court judge? or if you want to remove a Supreme Court judge, you have to specifically look at 1433. Should you carry an individual whom you desire to remove as both Chief Justice and a Supreme Court judge, should you carry that individual through a dual process, first this and next that one, using the same petition? I don't know. But it's a constitutional matter that perhaps constitutional lawyers need to settle with us. That's all I can say about it for now. So let's move on. And happy birthday to Gertrude Araba Tokonu, who turned 63 today and decided with her lovely husband to spend time with some orphans in an orphanage. That's maybe you can put a photograph on. Can you? Did you have it like that? Yes, that's Justice Tokonu and her husband with some kids in an orphanage where they spent her 63rd birthday. I moved to another photograph now. Beautiful, beautiful. That's where they went to. I believe that Justice Tokonu was with her family, her daughters as well as her husband, and they spent her birthday with some kids at an orphanage. I'm sure tomorrow morning you see these photographs online as well. Just Justice Tokonu and her husband presenting gifts to these lovely children at an orphanage. Yes, there you go. You can see there. That's Justice Tokonu. Happy birthday, Madam CJ. Happy birthday. She turned 63. Okay, let me go to Fatih to take some text messages, and then I'll come back and update you on the Abronia matter, which is coming in court tomorrow. Fatih, what are people saying? Give us 4 messages.
Thank you, and happy birthday to Justice Tokonu. From Papa Jemfi, he says the gold board is being sustained by the process of Galamsey, hence the government's lack of commitment in fighting down minutes. Benedanza says, isn't it interesting that Mahama has vindicated Nanado very early in his 2nd term? Vindication, they say, is in the womb of time. Whoever thought Mahama was going to do anything serious about the destructive Galamsey menace was simply daydreaming. I used the Obuasi Dunkwara Road through to Bogoso and Takwa in March this year, and I was so sad throughout my journey. Mahama and his appointees are the real kingpins and Galamsey dons. Aziz Al-Hassa says, I think the president should do self-introspection and apologies to Ghanaians over his previous comments that divided us. Also coming from Ajayo Sajafo, he says, respectfully, Your Excellency, when you refer to one tribe as Sakawa, did you know it could have generated war? And lastly, coming from Yao February, he said, so after the president told Ghanaians Ghana is in emergency because of Galamsey and his own 2 cabinet ministers and 6 others perished and helicopter crash when going to graze the regulation of Galamsey, he has not taken the Galamsey fight seriously. Ghanaians expected the government to declare a state of emergency with the overwhelming majority in parliament afterwards, but the president is saying the declaration is the last resort after exhausting all avenues, but he was expecting the NPP government to declare the state of emergency with the 50-50 parliament. Now back to you, Paul.
To the show, let's go over to the touch screen again and then get to Lawyer Preku, who is going to tell us what's likely to happen in court tomorrow. So what's Aborna being charged with?
Aborna is being charged with 2 things mainly. The first is publication of false news with intent to cause fear and panic, contrary to sections 208 and sections 123 of the Electronic Transaction Act. And then the second offense is offensive conduct conducive to breaches of peace, contrary to section 207 of the Criminal and Other Offences Act. And so basically, for this statement, that is publication of false news with intent to cause fear and panic, he alleges that the accused person, that is Abronya DC, stated that the IGP, that is Yohonu, had met with NDC operatives in Akwetia in the turn up to the elections, the Akwetia by-elections, which obviously would be the argument of the state in this instance that may have created fear and panic. And secondly, on this, the particulars of the second offense is that he, on his show, made certain offensive statements against the IGP.
Abronya is 29 years old.
That's he's not 29 years old. In fact, there were some inconsistencies here. It provided that he was 29, and then here it said he was 37.
Okay.
But those are
all right.
Errors that
that matters. Okay.
They may deal with, and that he made certain statements that IGP Tete Yohono collected bribe from members of the. Well, he says he made the statement that he is the most corrupt IGP in Ghana's history. And so, as to the specifications of whom he collected the bribe for and for what specific purpose, we do not know. But he says he's a bribe taker and he is corrupt in nature. And so, per the police charge sheet, they are claiming that these are statements that are not conducive, or that are conducive to the breach of the peace. To which these are statements that carry or have the propensity of causing a breach or a breakdown in peace and security, which is quite interesting. And so at the last court sitting, when they went to court the last time, the lawyers for Abronye made an application for bail. In fact, he appeared because he had been apprehended and kept for 48 hours. In Ghana, the law is that if you are caught for any offense, you must be kept for 48 hours maximum before you are brought before a court of competent jurisdiction for the court to give you bail. And so if an individual is arrested anywhere, the police has no right to keep him for more than 48 hours before he is brought before a court of competent jurisdiction. And this is the combined effect of Article 14 and Article 19 of the Constitution. And so that is what they adhered to. The courts, the circuit courts, denied the bail application of counsel for Abronye and remanded him to appear, that is tomorrow. In fact, the police made a claim or made the case that they need more time to investigate the charges they have proffered against Abronye, which is quite interesting because these are charges that hinge on an act. So if you see a video of me insulting the president and say that the president is whatever, and you charge me for offensive conduct conducive to a breach of the peace, all you need is the video. You have seen me in the video, you have kept me, you have asked me questions. I do not know which other investigations the police intends to conduct into this matter, but that was the case that was made before court, and so they told the courts that they want to keep, or Abronye has to be kept in custody to tomorrow. And so this is the offense in Act 29, Section 207. It says that a person who in a public place or at a public meeting uses threatening, abusive, or insulting words or behavior, and this is where it's very interesting, with intent to provoke a breach of the peace, or by which a breach of the peace is likely to be occasioned, commits a misdemeanor. Now, in Ghana's rank of offenses, we have a first-degree felony, we have a second-degree felony, and we have a misdemeanor. Misdemeanor is what would say an offense that is the least serious of offenses we have. And so the maximum per Act 30 for keeping somebody upon conviction is 3 years. That is, unless another law specifically mandates that even though an offense is a misdemeanor, the person can be kept for more years. And then this is Section 208. It says a person who publishes or reproduces a statement, rumor, or report which is likely to cause fear and alarm to the public or to disturb the public peace, knowing or having reason to believe that the statement, rumor, or report is false, commits a misdemeanor. So this also is a misdemeanor. I do not see how, but this is a value judgment, I do not see how saying that the IGP is corrupt may lead to a breakdown in security or public security. But I think these are opportunities to test the legal system and see.
Well, perhaps the point is people will lose confidence in the IGP and they will take the law into their own hands. Perhaps, I mean, if you want to stretch it.
Yeah, but that's the point, stretching. So in the US, they had occasion to decide a similar offense. And it was in the Supreme Court. In fact, the Justice Thurgood Marshall, who was the first black justice of the American Supreme Court, sat on that matter. And it was the case of Papa Christo versus Jacksonville.
Are you talking about Chief Justice John Marshall?
Thurgood Marshall.
No,
not John Marshall, the old one.
1972.
No.
So
Thurgood, the first black.
Okay.
In fact,
Clarence Thomas is not the first black.
No, Clarence Thomas is the second. Thurgood Marshall was the first. So Thurgood Marshall died, and Clarence was appointed to sort of replace to keep that balance on the bench.
Okay, I see.
So in this case,
what's the name? What do you pronounce that
Papa
name?
Christo. It's Greek.
It sounds like Ghanaian, Papa Christo. Okay.
The city of Jacksonville.
Yeah.
So the city of Jacksonville had enacted a law that banned what we call it had a vagrancy clause. So people who loiter, people who are found walking aimlessly, it made that a criminal offense.
In which state?
It was in the city of Jacksonville.
Jacksonville, okay.
Yeah. And so the matter went up to the Supreme Court. And
Federal
the Supreme Court. Federal. It was a bench of 7.
Okay.
Justice Rehnquist and another judge did not sit, but it was 7. 7-0 majority. The Supreme Court in the United States held that any law that gives law enforcement agencies the room and the wherewithal to convict as and when they wish is vague and consequently should be declared as unconstitutional. There was an attempt to apply this in Ghana in the case of Chachuchikata versus the Attorney General, where Chachuchikata sought to pray before the Supreme Court that the offense of willfully causing financial loss to the state is unconstitutional because it's vague, willful, and all that. But the Supreme Court held that we can interpret what willful is. We can interpret what causing loss is. And so in that instance, that attempt to
causing loss is a mathematical outcome.
It's a mathematical outcome. Mm-hmm. And so you look at the fact that maybe procurement laws were not followed, and consequent to that, there was a loss occasioned to the state. And so it is simple.
The contract was not done.
It wasn't done. It wasn't done properly. It didn't go to Parliament. There was no opportunity for it to be audited. You bypass your chief director, the ministry, all those things. And so the Supreme Court in this instance did not apply the vague test, the test of vagueness in Ghana. However, it does not mean that that argument is lost on us, because the general principle in criminal law is that criminal laws are supposed to be interpreted strict and firm. And so, for instance, it's similar to the Bible. When God gave Moses about over 600 laws, the rationale behind God giving Moses and the Israelites those laws was to ensure that things were very, very specific. So, for instance, there was not a lot of room for Aaron and the prophets to do a lot of interpretation in those things. So God will say, if you wear a garment where 2 fabrics are mixed, you must be stoned. If a male wears a female attire, you must be stoned to death. That's the nature of criminal law. And so it raises a jurisprudential discussion as to whether a law that says that law enforcement agents can say that any act which is likely to cause fear and alarm to the public or disturb the public peace knowing or having reason to believe that the statement, rumor, report is false. We should have the debate that does it give law enforcement agents a lot of room?
The discretion is in the word likely.
Likely.
But the report which is likely, that's where the discretion is.
Yes, the discretion.
Because then they make the determination whether this report is likely.
Yes.
The likelihood, using the word likely to apply to an offense,
it's a problem. Because an offense
the word likely cannot be applied to an offense. Offense is specific.
Yeah. So, for instance, if you look at this definition of murder in section 46 of Act 29, it says that a person who causes harm unlawfully to another person and that harm causes the death of that person commits murder. It's a simple and straightforward. But in this instance, by you giving law enforcement agencies the room to make that determination may be a problem. So I think that it is true. Publication of false news must be, or publication of false news that indeed has the potential to...
It's a concern,
It's a concern. It's a public concern. I think what the law making body, that's the legislature, should do is have a more expansive definition of what publication of false news is. And more specific. So what publication is, the various media that publication may be done, the specific statements that qualify, and maybe putting something else that is false. And when we even say likely, what is it? So for a very good example is Rwanda. After the genocide, they were specific on issues. So if you go to the Rwanda, their laws are specific. They'll tell you that issues relating to tribe,
you cannot talk about
it. So here we now have to have a discussion. Is it inciting?
And even which people qualify to be prosecuted? Because if I stand here and say Minister XY has done this, it carries more weight than a young man playing, do you know what totals is? The ball, for playing totals at circle, and says that, oh, this minister has done that.
Yeah, the circumstances.
The way you approach my saying it should be completely different from you approach a young man who is saying it. Or some young man running to a political rally, shaking his flag and saying something about other people.
Exactly.
It's very different from a journalist who sits on the media and says this, or even if he puts on his Facebook page because of his following. All of that must be defined in the law. Yeah, the delimitation of who can do what is very important.
And so someone may raise the argument that, but in any case, it is the courts or a court of competent jurisdiction that will make
that
it
would determine the likely. Yes.
The likely. But the thing is, before the court would even make the decision, most likely you would have been arrested. You would have been put through all that stress. You would have had to incur costs to get legal counsel. You would have been going up and down. Your bail may be denied. You understand? So all those things also factor.
So what's before the courts tomorrow?
Tomorrow he's remanded to appear before court, and most likely his lawyers would make a repeat application for bail. However, the state, the prosecution, still argues that they need more time for the purpose of investigations. No witness statement has been filed, disclosures have not been made, and so we wait to see.
So where is he being kept?
For that, I would suspect it's the CID headquarters, because I noticed that the former Attorney General, Honorable Godfrey Dame, was there today. In fact, there was a video of him being ushered to one of the buildings. But even before, I watched the video of the lawyer representing him, one lawyer, I think Daniel, at a firm in Accra, whose name I may not have permission to mention. So, and mentioned that even before they got the location of where he was, it was a bit of a problem, and all.
So it's not clear where they are keeping him.
But it says he's now had access to him, but initially was what I'm talking about.
Okay.
Initially. And so most likely you'd appear in court, the circuit courts, tomorrow. And then these matters.
Circuit court what?
Circuit court 9. It's at Accra Central.
All right, thank you. Good luck. Let's see what happens, and then we'll deal with it. It's 4 minutes past 11. We're done. But Fatih will always have some text messages before we go off on what had been a very long week, hasn't it? Okay, Fatih, what are people saying?
All right. Thank you. Coming from Chef Manasseh, he says, so the court doesn't know this law and denied Abonye bail. It's obvious the police wanted Abonye to be kept, and the judge bought into that. Wow, the judiciary under this Mahama government is making things look like there are certain things that General Akbar from Tamale says, no amount of intimidation can let us stop talking about the truth. Truth is always one, and we will keep on saying it, whether they like it or not. Junior Agbo come back to say, I always tell my people that let us give time to time. Everybody will see the kind of government we voted. We were telling the good people of this nation that if you vote NDC back to power, you are going to make a big mistake. But they refused to listen to us and left the critical thinker, the visionary leader, Dr. Baumia. We are going to suffer together this 4 years. Lastly, coming from Al-Hassan Mohammed, he says, Omani Boama and Comrade Moteller's death couldn't even push Mahama to declare a state of emergency on the Galamsey menace. But aftermath of the unfortunate death of the gallant 8 once again mirrored the justice Ablakwa said. Ablakwa said in the coming days, President Mahama is going to be brutal on the Galamsey menace. But what did we hear yesterday? Ablakwa is a pathological liar. Now back to you, Paul.
Okay, I have a few text messages that I can look at. One is from Brian Boabe, says that those who thrived on insults and lies are now seeking to criminalize the very acts from which they once benefited. The irony could not be greater. Their favorite basement recon and Sansa Delhi held worse at Archbishop Duncan Williams, the Asante Hene, or Chehin, the chief imam, and even judges. Today, President Mahama and his enablers want to silence dissent. We are truly back to the dark days. President Mahama is like Idi Amin, he says. But this tyranny, he says, will not last. Okay. Another one says that, listening to the president carefully, I'm getting the impression that he probably didn't hear everything Bernard Ablez said. He probably heard the part on Parliament, because it is unthinkable to see how, with such a great opportunity, he will not explain what happened with the Chief Justice one, nor to talk about the Electoral Commission. John Mahama is a communicator, and he would have liked those opportunities. Let's check. Maybe he didn't quite hear. All right. Let me see whether there's another one. Paul, the Black Stars won their game earlier this week. Did you hear, or you just don't want to talk about it? Well, the Black Stars won their game. We're not very happy with the performance. Since then, there's been a lot of conversations about the coach and whether he should stay or he shouldn't stay. So that's why we haven't talked about it. Okay, somebody says, let your people go and check on TikTok. And you will be surprised at how the president is being bashed for saying that the TikTokers, can be traced and picked up. Oh, I see it's going on TikTok. Please, Mikhail, go on TikTok and check. Let's see how people are responding to that. Alrighty, 7 minutes past. We're all very tired, aren't we? Long time. I will not be on Good Morning Ghana tomorrow. It's been a very busy week. Maybe next week I'll be back on Friday. Apparently, Lawyer Mesa will be on tomorrow. I'll be watching though and seeing it. Thanks for watching, viewers. It's always a pleasure. Good night.
Heavyweight champion international ministry. Median the Reverend Dr. Evangelist Patricia.
Metro TV, insightful and inspiring moments.
Has Christianity always been one of the religions in the world to you?
Oh, hallelujah.
Praise God.
Christianity is not a religion, neither is it a joining of a church and doing the Christian things like praying and giving and so on. Hallelujah.